Before we go ahead and jump into things, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Tape Never Lies Network. Make sure you become a patron today at www.thetapeneverlies.com. News out of Hallis Hall, big news out of Hallis Hall today. Shane Waldron will be the new offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears after I thought a diligent, thorough, but yet somewhat expedited search for OC. They landed on the guy that they felt, and a lot of people, not only in this city but around the league, felt was the most qualified for the job. Now, will that signal Justin Fields is going to stick around because of the job that he did with Geno Smith? I'm not sure about that. Does it mean Caleb Williams will be the guy now because he's a new offensive coordinator? Maybe he wants a fresh start. I don't know. What I do know is his resume is qualified. So, let's go ahead and dive into it a bit. Let's start there with the resume of Shane Waldron. First 3 years of coaching, started as a graduate assistant at Notre Dame. After that, went over to the New England Patriots as a offensive quality control coach. After the year after that, tight ends for the Patriots. Hartford Colonels of the UFL, I don't know where that is, but he was coaching receivers. Then high school ball at Buckham, Brown, and Nichols in Massachusetts, offensive coordinator there. Landed a job as a tight ends coach for 2 years at Massachusetts. And in his final 2 years at Massachusetts, he was the offensive line coach. After that, he joined the Washington Redskins as offensive quality control. That was his first year working with Sean McVay, I believe, as Sean McVay was the offensive coordinator for the Washington Redskins at the time. They were working with Kirk Cousins, had a lot of passing yards. They ended up, I believe, 8-7-1 in that season. It wasn't great, but they put up good offensive numbers. He continued to work under Sean McVay. After that, as Sean landed the job with the Los Angeles Rams, he coached tight ends, then was a passing game coordinator for 3 years. He also coached quarterbacks for one of those years. And then he moved on to the Seattle Seahawks. And for the past 3 years, he's been working as the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks. And he's put up his offenses have put up pretty solid numbers. People are going to point to this season and say, hey, they were pretty crappy, but they've dealt with a lot of injuries, a lot of rotation on the offensive line. And us being Chicago Bears fans, we know how difficult that can be on an offense, on a quarterback, and how you operate. So I'm not going to go ahead and tell you I'm the biggest Shane Waldron fan, and I'm not going to tell you I'm judging him off of a lackluster season on offense for Seattle. But what I will look at is how he's able to adjust to certain situations, right? He's been all over the place. He's been under Super Bowl winning coaches, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll. He's been with Sean McVay, as I spoke about before. He has the pedigree, and I believe he can be the guy to have the understanding that there needs to be a sense of urgency when you're operating on offense, and you have to be more creative than just screen passes and quick outs and trying to get Justin Fields to on design runs. Like this is not what we need. We need more creativity. We need more passes downfield, and he's a pretty pass happy coordinator. Looking at the Seahawks stats right now, in 2001 they attempted 495 passing attempts, and after the year after that they boosted it up to 573. Both years they had 30 plus touchdowns from their quarterbacks. They had 7 interceptions in 2001. They had 12 interceptions in 2002. 2002, remember, that was Geno Smith's comeback year, bounce back player of the year from out of left field, because let's be honest, majority of us would have assumed Geno Smith's career was on the rocks, to say the least, right? It was very, very close to being over. But he, a lot of people speak about Geno Smith's belief in himself, but there was a connection there with Waldron where he was able to find the best traits in Geno Smith and turn him into a 30 touchdown, 12 interception quarterback. And in 2022, they had just under 4,000 yards with 3,934. If you look at this season, like I said, there was a lot of turmoil, but they were still almost there at that 4,000 yard peak. They were about 90 yards short with 3,910 yards, 23 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So they had, like I said, they had struggles on offense this year, mainly because of the lack of cohesiveness on the offensive line. But if you look at his resume, if you look at how people around the league are speaking about him, I'm going to, for me, I haven't watched a lot of Seahawk games, so I'm going to have to go back and watch Seahawk games to find, see how he works, how he operates, his play calls, his play designs, what I like, what I don't like from his offense. Some of the things that that strike me as a negative or just a red flag for right now, at least, the lack of the running game. They were, let me see, they were in the bottom of the league in rushing attempts. And I'm not saying that, I want this team to be a run happy team. No, I just want there to be a little bit of balance, because it seems to me that, with offensive coordinators, especially, especially when things aren't going well, they could tend to just rely on the pass. They stick with what they know, just stick with the pass. I think there needs to be more of a balance. He's inheriting a very good running team, regardless of who's going to be at the quarterback. I feel like the Chicago Bears can run the football. Now they're going to have to add some more beef on that offensive line. But for me, if he can find that balance between passing and running, I'm all for it. Speaking of the lack of the run, I don't know if it directly contributes, but his offenses were kind of struggling, or were struggling to score in the red zone, and were struggling on third down. Now, will that carry over? Not necessarily. No. The Bears, like I said before, are in position to add a lot of depth, to add a lot of quality talent on this football team, and we'll go from there. I'm as of right now, I'm not going to just put all my eggs in one basket on Shane Waldron being the guy and everything's going to work out now. I still need to see more. I still want to see how they're going to operate in this postseason, during the draft, and beyond. Looking at some of the QB stats, like I'd mentioned for Geno Smith and for Russell Wilson, for at least that one year, they had pretty solid seasons. Like it was, obviously there was turmoil within the organization between Russ and between Pete Carroll and upper brass, but he still had 30 touchdowns. There was, they were still, he didn't quite get 3,500 yards, but he had 3,432 yards, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions for your quarterbacks, mainly Russell Wilson doing that. Geno Smith did add to that with 700 yards of his own. 702 yards out of those 3,900 and or 3,432 yards. He added 700 of those. So it was a successful offense regardless of which quarterback was in. And that's, goes to the point of the adapting. Can he be the guy? Because we spoke on, how many times have we talked about Getsy and past coordinators, Nagy, how they refuse to adjust to the players on the field. They refuse to cater to the talents of their football players, in particular the quarterback. Well, you have a guy here that has been able to do that with not only a guy that has been scrutinized after he's left Seattle, or even, at the end, but a guy that was pretty much discarded by everybody else. Like I honestly, if you thought that Geno Smith was going to revive his career in Seattle, you're probably, before he did, you're probably one of the only ones. But with the help of Shane Waldron and how he operates his offense, he was able to have some career years in these last couple seasons. So you got to give credit where credit's due in regards to that. I know there's, like I mentioned before, there's some red flags, but the ability to adjust is something that I'm very intrigued by. I want to see him operate, not only adjust to, his players, but as he's operating on the field, how do you adjust to the counter moves of the defenses that you're playing? How do you adjust at halftime? How do you adjust in game, in the quarter, on the fly? I want to see all of that. So, I feel like the resume is tip top. Now, whether it's going to be like that on the football field, that's yet to be seen. There's still a lot of questions surrounding how this team is going to move during the offseason. Let me go ahead and try to get to some of these comments in here. I appreciate all you guys. Number one, Doyle Colette, ready to hear the boys ready to hear me hear what I have to say, not the boys. The boys will be on Wednesday night, keeping it 100. I'm 100% sure they'll be talking about this and much, much more. Moving forward, let's see. Nobody wants San Francisco in the finals, it seems like. Let's talk about JF1's 41 QB rating in the fourth quarter. Yeah, look, we'll talk about them in a minute. We'll talk about Justin and Caleb in a minute. Daryl Davis, y'all ain't messing around. Go right into arguing about who's QB1. Let's just let it play out, and whoever the QB is, we give them our support. I'm honestly, Daryl, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at, Daryl, because I've mentioned before, I'm a fan of Justin, but it ain't been good enough. It ain't been good enough. Like, it's point blank, it has not been good enough. I'm not opposed to Caleb Williams. I don't care about the fucking emotion. I don't care about the fingernails, because if he puts 4,000 fucking yards on, in the stat sheet, gets you 10 to 12 wins, and the Bears are in the playoffs, and he's all world, you're not going to give a damn what he puts on his fingernails. You're just going to care about, man, that's my guy. He's winning us ball games, throwing touchdowns, doing his thing. And it would be the same thing with Justin Fields. It would be the same thing with Justin Fields if they chose Justin and Shane Waldron makes Justin work out, right? He addresses all the issues. He makes sure he caters the offense to Justin's needs, and Justin has a career year. I'm all for that too. But I'm not for this. One guy's a bum, one guy's like, you don't know that. Like, I don't know if I think Justin has a talent and the will to become a good player. Has he done that yet? No. As a quarterback, he hasn't been a great quarterback. Has he been a great athlete? Has he been a great teammate? Has he been a great leader? Absolutely. Does Caleb Williams have all my, support in, he's the next guy, he's John Elway in waiting? I don't know that either, because I've seen a lot of these generational or so-called generational quarterbacks come in and just flop, and that's not to say that, like, the last couple are complete flop. With Trevor Lawrence, he's been having people say was struggling, which I think the whole team was struggling, but Trevor Lawrence, for the most part, has been playing pretty decent quarterback for a young guy. You're not questioning whether Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback or not, or you're not questioning whether Trevor Lawrence is able to, operate or dissect the defense. These are questions that you still have with Justin Fields, and I don't think that you should sweep it under the rug because you are so passionate about his play and how you like him as a person. I like him too. But let's be real here. We don't know. We just need to play it as it lies right now. Right now, we got our offensive coordinator. We're going into an offseason. Let him address this issue, right? Let's see what he has to say. And, I want to jump into this. This should be his offense, period. He should be in every meeting from here on out. He should be whenever you're talking about offense, Shane Waldron should be involved. Period. I don't give a shit what it shouldn't be a tag team thing. It should be his offense. He's running the show. Nobody else trying to dictate what he's trying to do because you hired him to try to do that. So, moving. I totally agree with you, Daryl. Let's just support whoever it is. Hopefully, it just is. It ends up in Bears wins, and we all don't have to go ahead and struggle and stress with these decisions anymore. Let's move forward with some of these. Mo Bierman, if you watch Green Bay, they ran Getsy's screen several times with success. It makes a difference if the players execute. Then they got a deep ball off of faking it. Yeah, it's just when when the players execute, yes. But situations, there's a lot of situations where you're going to screen and you need to be way more aggressive than that. You need to be able to block for however long you need to, 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds, in order to get the throw downfield. The screen, it just, yeah, it's supposed to catch you off guard, but you're not supposed to throw it 12 fucking times in a game, 15 times in a game. I get what you're saying. I just don't like the fact that those were our go-tos. Like that was Getsy's go-to. Let's try to catch him off guard with a screen. By week 7, everybody was almost like there was guys almost jumping it, almost intercepting it, going it, taking it to the house. So for me, I don't disagree with you. Players need to execute, but coaches need to understand situations and when they need to use certain plays and not use certain plays. Daniel Perez, aloha, TTNL family from Honolulu. Best show on YouTube. Well, we got a bunch of shows here on YouTube. You got me, you got Keeping It 100, of course. You got Cars Keys. You got X's with the O's. You got, of course, DDP's breakdowns on the Patreon channel. If you want those, you had to become a patron today. But yeah, we got a lot of shows. And of course, during the season, BHL, the number one show. Everybody wants to watch that after the Bears game. So, moving forward, I'm looking forward to seeing how Shane Waldron attacks the offseason with Luke Getz, with Matt Eberflus and with Ryan Poles. And I'm really excited to see a different approach to offense. I'm really excited to see, different formations, motion. There's a lot of good things I hear about Shane Waldron's offense. And then there's, like I said, there's things to be cautious about, but I feel like with different personnel, maybe adding better personnel, you can correct some of these mistakes, or some of these red flags that you have. All right, there was another post person interviewed today for the DC job, and that was former Bear Chris Harris. Chris Harris, a safety for the Chicago Bears. I think he had 2 stints with us. I think he left for a couple years for the Carolina Panthers and then came back. But he was, he helped us out. He was part of that Super Bowl team for the Bears. I think this is a no-brainer in my eyes, especially if you're going to have if you're going to bring in a defensive coordinator to help out Eberflus, whether Eberflus is still calling plays or he's just going to have, a lot of the say, or at least some of the say in what the defense does and how it operates. Chris Harris, obviously understanding the system, playing in it, and being a former Bear, understanding the culture, and not winning a Super Bowl here and going to one, I think that could be something that he can use to motivate his defense, motivate his players, and not, and himself, because I just feel like this is a perfect fit. You got 2 defensive minds. You got a guy that's been here, the guy that's done it. He's been coaching for 10 years. You got a young defensive back group that honestly, they're very aggressive. And if you remember Chris Harris, that's kind of how he played, was very aggressive, but he was also able to coach up some top talent in Washington and in Tennessee for a while. So he was able to do that and have some top secondaries in his coaching career. I like it. I don't think this is a bad idea whatsoever. It's you bring in a guy who, like I said, knows the culture here or knows the history, has been a part of the Bears culture, the Bears family, has gone to war with the Chicago Bears. I think this would be a really good hire. Uh, for me, I'm not really worried about defense as much as I am worried about seeing how this offense is going to operate. Just because I know with Eberflus being, in charge, I don't think the defense is going to change drastically, regardless of who the defensive coordinator ends up being. Michael H. I still think we should trade down one spot to Washington, and Poles should take May or Daniels, whoever he likes better. I think we get a ton from the Commanders. It depends on it. Yeah, the Commanders. People talk about the new ownership group coming in. There's gonna need to be a drastic change for them in order to draw because of how badly they've been run as an organization. God, I remember that Sean Taylor statue, like or whatever they wanted to call it. It was not a statue, memorial, but it wasn't good in my eyes. It wasn't quality, and that's pretty much how they've been operating for the past 25, 30 years almost. It's kind of been sad, but maybe they go ahead and want to make the big splash, trade up to go get the number one pick, take Caleb Williams because of the connection to the area, what have you. Maybe that's it. I'm not going to speculate as of right now. I'm not going to say, yeah, let's do that, just for the simple fact that I had this thought before, but now I'm here like, all right, how do we get the most out of what we have? How do we get the most out of what we have after what we've seen? Has Justin shown you that he's able to adjust enough to become what Geno Smith became, right? To have the type of year that our past couple of years that Geno Smith has had under a Shane Waldron. Maybe, but it starts with footwork, and I feel like footwork and the little things. So you're gonna have to pretty much revamp Justin Fields' mechanics once again, and see if you could find success with it, because there's just things that you don't like about Justin. There's still the double tap, there's still the second guessing there, and then there's things that you do like. You saw better decision making down the stretch, even though it just, like I said before, it just wasn't good enough at certain spots. Progression is there, but it hasn't been enough progression for them to say, hey, we could go and trade out of this spot, risk giving up the best quarterback for a couple guys who might be really good. But I feel like Caleb Williams is just a step above those two guys, regardless of what Jaden Daniels did in this year. That's just my opinion, but we'll see. Angry Dad X Gamer followed a Seahawks CC this morning to gauge Seahawks fans of Shane leaving. Most okay to have him leave, but they are happy Waldron will get to run his own offense. Pete Carroll was controlling everything. And I'm glad. Thank you, Angry Dad X Gamer. That's something that I had questioned when it happened. It's like, when we thought about it, like people were bringing up the negatives. I'm like, well, they had all this turmoil. There's definitely a power struggle. We know for 1 year at least with him and Russell Wilson, and obviously this year with Pete Carroll being removed and placed into an advisory role, there was some issues. So I totally believe that Pete Carroll was in control of everything, trying to manipulate, trying to be the puppet master of all, while being the head coach. So I could see where the power struggle could lie, and where certain things, maybe certain plays weren't called, certain decisions were made because Pete wanted to have the final say over a Shane Waldron. And I'm not saying that, I don't like my coaches, my our head coach going and dictating something. If he feels that way, fine. That's fine. That's all well and done. If he's as long as he's not micromanaging the whole fucking thing, I'm cool with it. But to me, I feel like Pete Carroll was micromanaging everything, and Pete Carroll needed to be in control of everything. And you saw how the Seahawks operated for these past couple seasons, and they seem to be a really good. I think the Seahawks are a really good team that were being led by somebody who needed to retire. Thank you, Angry Dad X Gamer. Good insight there. Uh, La Lunatic, there's no way Poles doesn't draft his guy. Y'all really think Poles is going down without getting his QB? Y'all tripping. Hey, I'm not saying you are, man. I'm not saying that he won't. I'm just saying there's a lot of talk. They're if anything, they're playing their hand well. They're playing their hand well because there's still that contingent that is on Justin's side, and then you have the other side that wants Caleb Williams, and you have the Chicago Bears who are in support of the quarterback they have on the roster right now, but are telling you they're going to be diligent and thorough with how they approach this number one draft pick. I don't think you're going to see the Bears trading the number one draft pick as quickly as they did last season. I think this goes down to the wire. I really do. Draft day type of decision. Unless one of these guys truly blows them away, in either at the combine, pro days, or during interviews, they just go ahead and say, hey, this is going to be our guy, and they make a decision on it. I think they're going to take this one at least to the end of March, maybe into April. We'll see. We'll see about it. But yeah, I would like Ryan Poles to go ahead and give himself the best opportunity with all of the information that he can go ahead and collect, and then make the decision. I don't need it to be Justin because I'm a fan. I don't need it to be Caleb because somebody else thinks he's a fucking generational talent. I need it to be the decision that Ryan Poles makes because Ryan Poles has seen it, and he's going to go ahead and go for what he thinks is right. I'm going to be okay with that. Now, whether it works out, that's another story. But I would fully support Ryan Poles' decision if it was his and his alone, and the influence, that Kevin Warren or the front office has. I just want it to be his decision, right? He's obviously going to have his help, but I want him to be the guy that says, all right, here we go. We're going to stick with Justin Fields, or we're going to go ahead and draft Caleb Williams, and that's that. So he says he has a lot of guys that he trusts. We'll see. Poles is gone. Rather, he keeps Fields or draft a quarterback if they don't make the playoffs. I don't know about that. Unapologetic truth. I think he'll be on the hot seat. I don't think he'll be gone. They definitely need to make the playoffs next year. That's 100. Those are 100% facts. This team needs to be a playoff team next year. You're pretty much, from what I'm seeing, is you're pretty much telling us it was the coordinator as of right now. As of right now, we don't know what they're going to do at the quarterback spot, like I said, but you're telling us you needed to change the coordinator. Then it's going to work out because we have a defense that's on the rise, and we got an offensive coordinator now who has experience under quality coaching staffs, under Super Bowl champion head coaches, and has had experience calling plays for 3 years while helping out a guy whose career was on the skids in Geno Smith. I like the fact that the Bears went after the most qualified guy, and I like Shane Waldron's resume. Like I said before, let's see what happens on the field. Mile High Boost. It's pretty close-minded to think Caleb would fix the Bears' issues. O-line and skill position aren't that bad. O-line, I would beg to differ. You still need. I think you need another guard. I think you need I definitely need a center. And, with Braxton Jones, I just feel like he needs to be stronger. I don't think he's a terrible tackle. I just feel like Braxton Jones is probably a second tier guy. He's not the number one guy. He's a swing tackle, depth piece. I want a monster at left tackle. Like, I'll just say it like that. I want a monster at left tackle. I don't want a guy that's just, doing an okay job. That's just me. Michael H, is it this this is not me trying to bash JF. He literally has the slowest release in the league, and it's not close. You can't make screens work with a slow release. Well, that is true. Fix roster or go after a guy that media calls generational. Well, I mean, it's not. You're not fixing the roster in one fell swoop. I mean, you're gonna be struggling again a little bit. I feel like this year, if they're able to make the playoffs, it's going to be as a wild card, and I feel like it'll be as a, was it 7 or 6? It'll be 7 or 6 that they're getting in. That's just my opinion. Early thoughts, but hey, we'll see. There's a lot of comments. I'm trying to get to majority of you guys. Sorry if I don't get to you. Hands down, thank God Flus didn't keep his job. Sarcasm. Yeah, what's up, Sean Stewart? How you doing, bro? Nobody knows what they're going to do. Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is not a bigger problem. Everyone Flus brought in was fired in 2 years, and now we're letting him pick more coaches. I don't think Flus had full autonomy on picking Shane Waldron. I think this is more of a Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, and Matt Eberflus type of decision, because you wanted to get the guy that was most qualified for the job. You couldn't afford to have a brand new play caller come in and risk having what you had with Luke Getsy. It's one thing to be like, all right, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're like. They're clueless on how they're operating. But it's another thing to look at what they just did right here and say, hey, this guy's way more qualified than the last guy. His offense operates better than the last guy. I think he's one of the top 10 offensive coordinators this season. Why not take a shot? Why not take a shot? They did that, and whether it saves their asses, I don't know. But they went ahead and made a decision that was based on qualifications and experience, and Shane Waldron had both. So let's give him a shot. Let's give him an opportunity. Also, hopefully, Chris Karras is the defensive coordinator, like I had mentioned before. That would be dope. But going back to Shane and the offense, I don't think it bam, all of a sudden we're top 10 in offense come next season, regardless of who the quarterback is. But I feel like having a qualified offensive coordinator, we're already a step ahead, or we're already on the right foot to gaining a better sense of how they're going to operate offensively and gaining better operation on offense as a whole come game day. So I'm all for it as long as it works, because if it doesn't work, yeah, there's going to be people fired. If the Bears are absolutely terrible and they keep Justin Fields, there's going to be people fired. If they're really not good and they keep Caleb Williams, something's going to happen. Somebody's going to be moving on. But nonetheless, we'll see what they do this offseason. White Chocolate Thunder, if they do trade down and Justin doesn't work out in 2 years, you will have another generational pick, and with the draft capital you have accumulated, you will be able to pick your quarterback. I mean, that's a bold assumption that there's going to be another generation. I mean, they're going to call guys generational forever now. Like, there's the next quarterback that has a big fucking year, he's going to be generational. It's just I don't like throwing that around just because you have a quarterback who has a big arm, who's put up some big numbers. Like you're generational when you see it in the NFL, right? You're generational when you see it in the NFL. Like Pat Mahomes, generational, right? You got a guy like even, maybe not a Josh Allen yet, because Josh Allen has a lot of these struggles. But really, right now, Pat Mahomes. You got a Pat Mahomes that's generational. Who else is generational in the league? Who else is generational around the league? Manziel was generational, right? There's a lot of people talking about him. There's a lot of people talking about, of course, Ryan Leaf. We've heard those stories. Jamarcus Russell. So there's a lot. There's a lot to worry about with the unknown, and there's a lot to worry about going into this draft. That if Caleb doesn't work out, you're screwed. If Justin doesn't work out, you're screwed. Just do your due diligence, Ryan Poles, and I feel like things will be all right. Let's see. Brino, trade now to accumulate picks. Just use them. Trade up to get a QB in 2 years instead of using one pick this year. Genius. Oh, well, that's, easier said than done. Like, you still have to have the right type of deal, and they still have to think that Caleb Williams isn't the fucking guy for them. Like, that's the whole thing. They have to assess it. You can't just go out and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Trade it, and then everything else is going to work out from then. We're going to find a quarterback later on. What if you don't? What if you don't find a quarterback later on? And then you're assuming that the Bears aren't going to get better with the picks that they're trading. How are we going to get that generational quarterback? We're going to have to trade all those picks to move back up if we end up winning games? White Chocolate Thunder, generational is a joke. You have to find a comp. I think you just typed it twice. Have to find a compliment quarterback you can coach up. Look, I'm good with that. But Andrew Luck quit generation. Okay, Andrew Luck. Lamar generational? If he wins a Super Bowl, I'll say generational. Andrew Luck, I felt like he was on his way. He had the talent to be generational, but like you said, he quit. Laz, I think this is the perfect way to sum it up. Either way, this will be Ryan Poles' legacy. That's 100% correct. However it goes, whether it be Caleb, whether it be Justin, whether, Shane Waldron works out, if the Bears fall flat this offseason or this upcoming season, you're going to really start to feel it from the fan base. I don't know. I don't think Shane Waldron would be on the hot seat, but I think Matt Eberflus would have to answer some questions about his job again. I'm not hoping for that. I'm not wishing for that. I hope it all works out and, they prove us all wrong and Shane Waldron changes things here offensively for the Bears. But just looking at how they've operated before and how this last season panned out, I'm very skeptical, and I'm sure it's justified, and I'm sure a lot of you fans are as well. Hands down, hopefully Waldron is a better offensive teacher. The offensive scheme doesn't only apply to the quarterback; it's across the board: line, running backs, tight end, wide receivers. We've seen how long it took our line to master Getsy's. Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like, I hope he is a better teacher and he simplifies it instead of, causing your quarterback to verbally express himself to the media, saying the truth, although he walked it back, but saying the truth at how he's being overcoached, right? You're throwing too much at him, or you're suffocating him with whatever your game plan is, whatever you want from him. He just wants to be unleashed. That was exactly what Justin Fields felt how he was being treated in the first 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season. Finally, in that Washington game, they broke out. They were able to have one of the better games Justin's ever had. I think DJ Moore's best game ever, when he had 250 something yards, 3 touchdowns. I hope he's a better teacher. I really do. It's all about development. The Bears have lacked that at the quarterback position for so long. The lunatic. I'm not going to be neutral on this. Neutral in this. The Bears 100% undoubtedly need to draft Caleb Williams at 1. All right, hey, that's on you, bro. I understand both sides. I see Caleb Williams as a really good quarterback that could probably get us to where we want to be. Passing wise, he seems like he's more polished. Decision making, he seems like he's a step quicker. Generational, like I said, win me some Super Bowls and we'll talk about generational. But we'll see. I just don't want to go into this season, regardless of the decision, just fucking downing the Bears in every game. I'm miserable because they didn't make the decision that I wanted them to make. Just not what I want to do this season. Now, will I be upset if it pans out that way? Well, absolutely. If the Bears keep Justin and fucking Caleb works out, well, there's going to be questions. If the Bears draft Caleb and he doesn't work out, there are going to be questions. It's just what it is, man. I just don't want to go into this season thinking that, man, this team is gonna be absolute ass and we're going to be lost again, because you saw the progression with defense. You see what they've done right here today in hiring a Shane Waldron. We've talked about his accolades. We talked about his ability to adjust. We talked about with the quarterbacks that he's worked with. He's been able to do real good things with the talent that he's been given. So I'm willing to give him an opportunity. Whether whoever is that quarterback, right now I don't even want to get into. I don't even want to get into the beef because it's just too much right now. Whoever's that quarterback, I hope Shane Waldron's able to get the best out of that person, and that person's able to lead us to a Super Bowl title. I'm not investing in one way or another. Just going to support whoever it is. I'm in that camp. Good analysis. Ivan Williams has been a tangible traits, but needs to develop. Year 1 will be his starting point and should grow from there. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Thank you, the Black Bear Podcast. Shout out to you too. It's very, very hard doing it by yourself. Trust me, I'm trying to keep up with all the chat while keeping my focus, and it's been very, very challenging. But it's actually been helping out my podcast game as a whole, because you're able to bounce back, keep your focus as much as you can, and you get better as it goes. So I appreciate you, Black Bear Podcast. Yeah, guys, I really don't have much more to say. I'm looking forward to the off season. I'm going to continue to have these shows. Next week, I'll probably do a mock draft. We might do one. We might do one. I'm still trying to see if I could get somebody to come on as a guest, but if not, might be doing mock 1 for this offseason for the Chicago Bears. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. I appreciate you guys joining me on this Monday night. Very exciting news this afternoon. Bears have a new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, a very qualified offensive coordinator, experienced, and has a lot of experience getting the best out of the quarterbacks and out of the players that he has on the football field. So looking forward to it. Thank you guys for joining me once again. Before I get out of here, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Tape Never Lies Network. Make sure you become a patron today at www.thetapeneverlies.com. I'm going to go watch the Bulls game now. They're actually winning for once. That's an ugly free throw shot. They're actually winning for once, so I'm going to go enjoy the Bulls game. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Remember, I already went through the spiel. So become a patron today. I appreciate all you. Peace.